experience in the United States this August 4th through the 6th. In Raleigh, North Carolina, Audio Advice Live is going bigger, bolder, and louder. Audio Advice Live is the best place to learn about the latest trends in high-performance audio, home theater, 2-channel, turntables, or headphones. Meet with the industry's top experts, brands, and influencers to hear all the latest and greatest gear live and in person. Register to attend now at audioadvice.live.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Friday, and welcome to our monthly live stream and giveaway, where today we're joined by two awesome guys from KEF, both Ben and Adam. Hey, guys.
Hi, Nick. How you doing?
Doing well. And before we kick everything off, I hope you guys are pumped for Audio Advice Live. We are just absolutely excited. We did it last year. I'm sure you guys heard about it. And if you heard the good things, it's going to be even better this year. So I hope you guys are looking forward to it. But just to kind of summarize what we're going to be doing over the hour, we're going to have a Q&A driven session here. So, if you got questions, ask them. And for the best question, we're actually going to be giving away a pair of Q150 bookshelves in walnut, specifically walnut, which is a beautiful finish, and we're really excited. Then at the end of the hour, we're going to be announcing our giveaway for something that Adam's going to break down here shortly. Actually, Ben, never mind. So to start it off, we're going to get a little bit of info on both Adam and Ben. And so, Adam, you're going to kick us off. Tell us who you are, where you're from. Yeah, your favorite color, whatever you. No, I'm just kidding. And then we're gonna do a fun question. Yeah, it's great. And then tell us what you're drinking as well as your soundtrack.
Yeah, sure. I've been with KEF for 4.5 years. I live just actually maybe 30 minutes from Audio Advice in Raleigh, and so pretty close by. I cover kind of the southeast half of the country for KEF, working with our resellers like Audio Advice. Been in the industry since 2004. And kind of hopped all over from manufacturer to installer to distributor to rep, all kind of all the different positions over the years. And tonight I am drinking some single malt scotch from a company called Old Pulteney. That's pretty good. Pretty good. It's mostly empty because we have young kids, and so share that.
I hope it's not the kids doing it.
I'm not even sure these days.
Awesome. Well, I think I cut you off there for a second. So we like to open up with a fun question. So today we're going to do what your favorite movie soundtrack is. So exclusively the soundtrack.
Ooh, I know. Probably original Top Gun. That was some of Kenny Loggins' finest back then. Growing up in the '80s, kid wanted to be a pilot. That was a pretty badass soundtrack. So I'd go with original Top Gun. You can't do it.
Awesome. And everybody.
I mean, you can't do Bohemian Rhapsody when it's like actually, the music is the core of the movie. So you got to pick a movie that necessarily, music wasn't the main feature. So that's what I would shoot for.
Oh, yeah. For sure. And everybody that's in the comments, go ahead and tell us what you're drinking and what your favorite movie soundtrack is. Unless you're in California, which you got a few more hours, or the West Coast, you got a few more hours before you get off. But it's 5:00 here on the East Coast. So Ben, how are you doing?
I'm very, very well, thanks, Nick. And yourself?
Doing well. So the same goes. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So my name is Ben Huggins. I'm the product training manager and also product manager for subwoofers for KEF. I've been with KEF for 6 years now. Feels like 60 in a good way. So I'm currently here in the New Jersey office in our home theater, which is why it's quite dark because it's light controlled. So yeah, I've worked KEF 6 years. I was originally out in the Hong Kong office, moved from the UK over there, recently came over to the US. Absolutely enjoying every challenge every day. So it's a great joy to work for KEF, a company which, my first speakers were KEF. So to come into working for a company which has been a huge part of my hi-fi hobby life has been absolutely amazing.
Awesome. And you want to share what you're drinking and what your favorite soundtrack is?
Yeah, so I am drinking some Woodchuck Hard Cider. As I was mentioning earlier, I haven't quite caught up on my 5 pieces of fruit today, so had to pick up a can of cider because I'm pretty sure that counts as one. In terms of favorite film soundtrack,
Dirty Dancing.
I'm a really, really big big grunge fan, so the single soundtrack. You know, you've got your Mad Season, you've got Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam. Just love that soundtrack to absolute bits.
That's a killer soundtrack. So thanks, guys. And for those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Nick. I am the lead theater designer here in Audio Advice. So if you're outside of North Carolina and you've worked in a theater, then a good chance that you worked with me. So as for what I'm drinking today, I've got a beer from Burial. The reason I picked it's got a picture of Burt Reynolds and Sloth from the Goonies on it. So that's kind of interesting. It's a weird collaboration of people, but for soundtracks, you know, I think that Full Metal Jackets is taking the cake for me. I'm a big like old country fan, so it's got a bunch of old country hits as well as some great rock on there. It's a really killer soundtrack if you haven't listened to it. But awesome. So to kick this all off, so tell us a little bit about what you guys are going to be giving away today in terms of the big door prize.
Oh yeah, big door prize for today is going to be a brand spanking new pair of KEF R3 metas. So this is the bookshelf iteration of the new R series meta that was just announced back February. I can't remember. Feels like Ben said, I feel like it's been 20 years ago. And so with the new R series, of course, we're going to dive really deep into some of the new things in the R series. So I don't want to spoil all the surprises, but basically a complete rebuild from the ground up from the previous R series that was released in 2018. So a lot of core, new technologies that are now core to KEF. Of course, metamaterial absorption on the UniQ driver. We'll talk about that. And the same great, amazing cabinet design, incredible finish. They all include matched microfiber grill cloths. They look excellent. And so someone is going to be very, very happy with a pair of R3 metas.
Oh, yeah. Those are killer speakers. What are they? Right around 2,200, I think?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So a good...
Huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's awesome. Well, and also you guys made a big appearance at Audio Advice Live last year. So you are coming again this year. So you want to tell everybody a little bit about what you're bringing?
Let's just say what we're not bringing. We're not bringing Ref 5s, Ref 3s. Yeah, that's it. Like literally everything else is going to be there. Like I'm not even joking. So yeah, we're gonna need a lot of packing tape, a lot of box knives. So no, we're gonna have super excited. We're gonna have a R series theater in one of the suites. That'll be a multi-channel theater, all floor standing with using the new R6 as the center channel. All KEF subs around in that room. We're gonna have a Q series theater or like an LS series kind of gaming type system. We think that's still a bit. We need to hammer out all the exact final details. We're really excited to have a big area this year to show off all the LS active products. So the LS60s, LSX2s, LS50 wireless 2s, as well as the LS50 metas. Downstairs in the lobby, we'll have the blades again. So we're really excited to show those off again, hopefully playing even louder than we did last year. And then a really unique opportunity is we've partnered with Sony for one of their demo rooms, and they're going to be using the 7000 series projector, which has been around, pretty well-known, well-established projector. But we're also going to be using their new 7000 ES receiver, which we got to do with them at their grand unveiling event now several months back in January in Austin. This receiver is amazing because it can do 13 channels of amplification, full Dolby Atmos, everything. And we're going to have a full KEF Q series theater. Again, all floor standing towers, Atmos speakers, 650 center channel, all KEF subs. It's going to make a killer theater system that's all powered by one box, one receiver, Sony projector, all KEF audio. And that's going to be in a very big demo room. So it's going to be really exciting to see how we fill that whole room and the experience we can make in there with Sony and KEF. Very, very excited about that demo room. That's going to be a fun one.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. This is going to be
cool. We'll
so for those of you who don't know,
probably everywhere throughout the show.
Yeah. Well, and for those of you who don't know, we have rooms downstairs, which this is in the Sheraton Hotel. So this is a big hotel. And I'll tell you, whenever people walk in, they're just shocked on how the quality of it turns out. But we're going to have ballrooms downstairs that are bigger, essentially ballrooms. And so we're wanting to turn, I don't want to spoil all of it. It's going to be coming in the coming weeks, but there's going to be theaters downstairs that are going to be absolutely killer. So, full on projectors, full system, surround sound, Atmos. It's gonna be the works. So we're super excited.
For us as a manufacturer, last year we were absolutely blown away with the show, and this year I think we'll have 10 to 11 people from KEF at the show. And so for anybody who's been on the fence about going, just go. The show is an absolute blast. It's one of the only shows that's really done throughout the country where it's actually fun to attend. You can have great interactions with the Audio Advice team, great interactions with the manufacturers. I mean, we were so excited to meet and talk to people last year about their theaters or theaters they currently have, what they're planning to do. I mean, the 2 days went by so fast that we almost couldn't believe it. It was packing up when we realized how long the show was.
Yep. I feel just that. And so, yeah, it's very, it's consumer focused. So it's a different beast. If you've ever been to a trade show, it's consumer based, but we'll get the show moving on and get some of these questions. So I got a question here from Bill Uzel or Uzel. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but he said, I've heard the R3s, but not the metas. I've read and heard about what meta is, but don't know how it actually works in layman's terms. So do you guys care to help us out here? I know exactly someone's rubbing their hands together waiting for it.
Bill, you don't know what you just did.
I've literally just done this in a training session next door, so I'm right on the heel of this. So the problem that we're trying to fix here is when a driver moves forwards and backwards, it sends sound forwards, but it sends just as much sound backwards. And we have the cabinet is there in order to try and encapsulate that back wave. It's because longer frequencies will wrap around and start to cancel out what's coming out the front. So the problem we now have is that we've got the sound waves bouncing around inside the cabinet, and some of that is going to go back into the drivers and cause distortion. So the kind of the short of it is this meta material is actually a disc comprising of 30 channels of different lengths, and they are tuned so that they absorb a different kind of frequency bandwidth, but they cross over as well. So when the sound wave comes out the back of the tweeter and into that central hole in the disc, one or more of those channels will resonate in the antiphase and therefore cancel out that back wave. And we absorb, I think it's 99% of the back wave from 620 hertz upwards. So we don't get that back wave going back into the tweeter and causing that distortion. And when I first heard it, it was an absolute night and day improvement. You were just hearing more of the detail, more of how that track has been recorded. And we're very, very excited to be able to get that into many, many products in the KEF range now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, it's really confusing to describe people what meta is, because I just had for everybody who doesn't know, this is what it is. So it looks kind of confusing. It looks like one of those little puzzles that you have as a kid with the marble that you roll through the maze. So it's hard to explain what the true benefit of it is. And in the new R series, you guys made other advancements besides just meta to it. So it's it's a whole different line of speakers now besides just the meta. But we had another question pop up from Rowan Gamer TV. Said, are there ceiling/overhead speakers for the R Meta series right now? Or if the R8 Meta is recommended for our GTS-X Pro, blah, blah, blah. So basically, is there a matching set to go with the R series out there currently?
The only in-ceiling speaker that we currently do that has meta material is the CI250 RRM-THX, because apparently we cannot make really, really short CI speaker model names. So that's currently the only in-ceiling meta material equipped speaker at the moment. But the R8 does work really, really nicely, not just with the bouncing off the ceiling method, but you can actually wall mount them above the fronts and above the rears to where like the ceiling meets the wall, and have them kind of up there so they fire across and down into the room. So the R8s do work really, really nicely for that. So there are a few ways of getting meta into the Atmos side of things, if that's the way that you want to go down.
Yeah, and so what would you guys say like tonally match probably the best with the current R series? If someone's wanting to build a theater and wants to use surrounds and heights with the current R series, is that going to be the best match with the THX, or is there going to be, something that's a little bit more affordable?
Yeah, I mean, ideally, this is the CI 3160. This is our series behind me, so that'd be a great in wall to match any of the freestanding R series meta we have now. We use the CI 4100s a lot for sides and rears. I mean, that's kind of the neat thing about KEF is, because we build, design, engineer, and manufacturing everything ourselves, everything is tonally matched across the entire product range. So all you're really getting is differences in scales. I kind of use the analogy of a Porsche 911, where it's like, the basic 911 may be a more simple CI speaker, where the 911 4S is the blades. It's, it's the performance is always consistent. It's just how much are you getting? So that's where, Nick, you come in super handy with anybody who's designing a theater, looking at how to put a multi-channel system together, is kind of knowing all the different product SKUs that we offer, how they're going to fit. This wall behind me might be concrete block and I can't do anything in wall. So now I can use the T series on wall, or I could use those R8s as mentioned earlier to hang them up in the corner there. And that's going to be my surrounds. And so I would just encourage anybody who's building a room, reach out to Audio Advice, reach out to KEF, ask for, hey, what can I do here? Theater is so much fun. Music is so much fun because a lot of it in the home is problem solving, is figuring out, hey, what's the best thing we can do in here? Because we've got, limitations. Like right here, that's our door to our patio. best curtain I could do over it, motorized shade from Lutron. And it's like, that's the best I can do to kind of make the patio door disappear.
Yeah, that's always the challenge. I mean, we work with funky rooms all the time. People are like, oh, I don't have a perfect room. I'm like, I don't know a single sales guy or anyone that works for a company that has the perfect room. You have to kind of work with what you got. But yeah, Adam's got a really killer theater. I think we've shown it. We've shown it before. So go to our channel, you'll find it. Cool. Well, we just had another one pop up here. So I got one from Brian Blind, and this is a question for the KEF reps. So what makes a bigger impact on their speakers, a good amp or better source material? I think this is an interesting one.
Ooh.
Wow. That's a good one. That's a good. I'm going to drink while you talk.
I'm going to say neither or both. And the reason I say, look, you've got to look at it as a system. Whilst there is absolute truth in that, what you start with, you cannot improve on what's gone in, right? In my honest opinion, with a hi-fi system, it's all about maintaining as much as you can as you go through each stage of the system. So you want to start high, but you also want to try and keep it high all the way through. And if you have a great source, but you don't have the engine behind the speakers to drive it inside the room that you're looking at using, to the output levels that you're looking at doing, so it's kind of a lost cause almost. So you've really got to look at it as a complete system. You can't just kind of like point to a certain area and go, yeah, that is the absolute most important part. Look at it as a whole, and that's where you have the likes of, come talk to us, come talk to Audio Advice, because we're going to be able to help you through those questions.
Sure, Adam. What's your take on it?
That's honestly the right answer. It's everything is a system. There is no one piece that's necessarily. I mean, even as the speaker manufacturer, it's very easy for us to say, "Oh, speakers, most important thing by far." But the reality is, if you don't have a good projector, if you don't have a good processor, if you don't have a good amplifier, if you don't have good subwoofers, if you don't have a good screen, it's all going to hinder the complete experience. And especially when it comes to theater, home cinema, getting the full experience where you feel like you're actually there, like that's so vital. And having, everything be of a quality 4 or be of a quality 6 is much better than having, one at 2, one at 7, one at 5, one at 9.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's going to make a more inconsistent experience. And so definitely build a system from the start, have goals in mind if you do want to be able to upgrade or exchange or go different routes as you go on. But, definitely try to kind of keep this system in line. I even did the same here. Like when I first built this system, it was built using, one series of speaker. And now that I'm upgrading it, now I'm going to all reference around the room. And so even for me as a speaker manufacturer, I'm kind of slowly building it up and up and up. I just got a Kaleidoscape, and so there's all these little things where I'm kind of continuing to make the whole system better. And that's what I would recommend for anybody to do. So Ben is spot on.
Yeah.
For once.
Well, yeah, it's like making a system modular. Whenever you're going to lay it out, whenever you pre-wire for more speakers than you need, make your system where you can upgrade each component over time and just get it better and better. Because, in reality, most people don't have budgets to do their dream theater right off the bat. But, going back to what makes a system sound the best, a chain's only as good as its weakest link. So, balance it all out. Make it good.
I mean, balance is the key, especially when you're working within a specific size of room or a specific budget. Balance goes a lot farther than having any single higher performance piece of product.
Yeah. So we got another question here. So somebody's asking, I have a small theater setup. Would it be better to have the LS50 metas or the R3 metas for the LCR?
Ooh. These are tough.
Depends on the room.
I know, dude.
Yeah.
It depends on the room because one of our colleagues out in Nashville, Jack Sharkey, has this. He has a phenomenal LS50 meta based home theater. I mean, he's underpinning it with a good number of our cube cells, but they work so well. But it works in his room for what he's looking to achieve. Jack doesn't strike me as one of the individuals who likes to just blast everything out full volume all the time. Although he does, he is a drummer after all. But he appreciates detail at low levels, and for him, the LS50 metas were fantastic. In the kind of rooms that I'm looking at personally, I'd probably go for the R3s. I would like a bit more of the signal that's meant to go through the bed channels personally. So I'm really just underpinning with the subs where absolutely necessary and try and get that crossover point a bit lower. But that's a case of personal taste.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree. Yeah, I've had clients to do the active LS50s, and they use Dante all the way around the room with adapters, and so it's a crazy active setup. But no, I mean, KEF, you guys absolutely kill it when it comes down to theaters, and I've heard the pitch a few times about why you guys think that the KEF's the best for theaters. And so do you guys just want to share, what makes you guys special for when it comes down to being in a theater use case? Because, you're often regarded as, some of the better ones.
I mean, listen, I do, kind of like you, Nick, I do a lot of the theater design for KEF. And actually, I will reference back to Ben all the time, just to kind of always make sure we're approaching something correctly. The magic sauce that KEF has when it comes to home theater is UniQ. It's the fact that we just create a really wide sweet spot that is so needed in a home theater, because home theater is really about getting like your friends and your family together to watch a movie, to watch a TV show, watch a sporting event. And so just inherently, you want to cram as many people as you can into a room when it comes to home theater. And that's where a wide sound stage, a huge sweet spot, is just so important. You can use kind of my theater here, even the theater that Ben's in, which is in our office in New Jersey. With UniQ, we're able to do a lot of things that make much more sense in terms of the physics of how we listen, of how we hear, that other brands just can't do because they don't have UniQ. It's not that their speakers aren't good. They are. They just don't have UniQ, so they can't create that large sweet spot. And so when it comes to theater, And why KEF is so important is the speakers can go where they have to go, not where they need to go. Because again, homes always have some kind of limitation, have some kind of restriction. So we can put the speakers where they have to go and it will still work. We can have that really wide sweet spot. So we can have, a row of couches, a row of seats, and fill the entire room. And then plus, as I mentioned earlier, because we build, design, engineering, manufacture, and everything ourselves, I can use any product within the KEF catalog to complete a theater. So again, if this back wall behind me was concrete, I could use the T-Series on walls and it would work just fine for rears. I can use in-wall subs. I've got 2 in-wall subs back here, 2 in-wall subs in the front, and 2 freestanding subs on the side. I can kind of mix to make the perfect system for me. And for any consumer looking to build a theater, that's what's most important. That whole creating an even system, or an even system of equal quality projector, processor, amp, TV, receiver, whatever it might be, speaker. Because of all the shapes and sizes KEF has, we can always be in your budget. We can always give you a performance that's going to exceed your expectations. In my 4.5 years with KEF, one of the things that always kind of puts a smile on my face is seeing even long-term veterans in the industry come up to the office and be just blown away by what we're doing. Our theater in New Jersey, what is it? Like 35 by 25 by like 12-foot ceilings. It's a huge cubic volume.
8,500 cubic feet. It's
absolutely massive. And what's so hysterically funny in that theater room is for like 85% of the base, we're using 4 Cube 12 subwoofers. That's $4,000 of subwoofers in a room that's like 8,000 plus cubic feet. And when you hear it, the couches drop when they hit. And the ability to kind of show what you can do when you set up a room correctly with KEF is just never gets boring. It's why Ben's always there.
Yeah. I'm
that room is absolutely insane.
Now, and the thing is, everything that Adam has just said is also just as valid on the 2-channel side. Mm-hmm. The whole benefit of UniQ pushes into all situations. So we're looking at. Sorry, someone was just coming through. So, yeah, I should have locked the door. So, everything that Adam said about UniQ is absolutely valid on 2-channel. It's the same story, right? And one of the key things that you'll see with KEF is we don't specify a product for being for movie or for music, because it's the same. A speaker's doing the same fundamental job. There's no such thing as a speaker or a subwoofer for music or for film. It is the subwoofer more or less accurate, and is it going to get the output that I need in the room that it's going into? So we don't make that distinction because there's no need to. The benefit of UniQ covers all aspects of sound.
Interesting. No, I like that point a lot. But and for those of you guys who don't know, Ben is sitting. He's not in a prison cell. He's actually sitting in their amazing theater. I went to that theater a few months ago. Yeah, they're not joking when they say it's a good theater. It is.
He's just using a 1990s home camcorder, apparently.
Yeah. he's got a Motorola Razor. He's streaming from it right now. But
I actually did have a Motorola Razor when I was younger.
But that room is absolutely killer, and we've got a whole video on it. So I'm sure my ground control will throw it in the comments. But it is it's really impressive. Adam, did you work on the design of that too? At the lounge.
A little bit more. I got to, when I first came on board with KEF, we were designing it, so I got to do a little bit more of the distributed audio design and kind of throw some thoughts into the design for the theater. But it's Acoustic Innovations who did all the main work, did the acoustic panels, all the walls in that theater about a foot thick, from drywall to acoustic materials to fabric over it. And so the team at Acoustic Innovations did a fantastic job in that theater.
Yeah, no, it's really good. And you guys did something really interesting. They put their subwoofers. I don't want to get off on a tangent here. I'm bad about this, but they actually have their subwoofers sitting on in a sandbox in the wall. And I had never seen anybody do that before, of actually recessing a floor standing sub, putting it in the wall and putting sand under it. So can you guys tell us a little bit about, about that, or tell the people why that was advantageous for you to do?
Yeah, so we did that in our, so we have a 5.2.2 system over in the bar, which is in the next room, because of course we've got a bar. It's where all the training and business happens. It's great. So you want to hear and you want to feel the bass. You don't necessarily want to feel the bar when you're sat at it. So we cut out holes in the bottom of the cabinets. We took off the backing of the cabinet doors. Did some sand-filled boxes, so sat them on so they are decoupled from the bar, so we're not losing that energy. And the interesting thing is we do actually have like a cabinet mode on the subwoofers. So because putting them into a cabinet, they're going to have a bit of boundary gain that might make things a little bit muddy. So we actually do have some pretty significant DSP on board in order to help counter that. So you get a really nice balanced bass out of it. And, people want bass. They don't necessarily want to see the speakers. Hide your speakers, not your sound, right? So that was very much the idea behind that, was let's get the performance, let's hide them away. Let's turn it into a more home-friendly kind of situation.
Yeah, because the lounge doesn't look like, if you go into the lounge, it sounds amazing. The kitchen setup made me really want to change my kitchen around. So you guys may be seeing a 5.1 in my next kitchen. Who knows? But, it doesn't look like it would just be built for performance. It looks very lifestyle and everything's really well integrated, which, I absolutely love. And it sounds, I think every square foot of that place has direct coverage for a speaker. So if you were to do, a full range, spectrum, I think that every single point in there, you can hear from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, if I had to guess. So it's awesome.
You wouldn't be far off.
But jumping to the next question. So we were talking about speaker positioning and theater and 2-channel. So John Hansen asked, so does the UniQ speakers, do they require a toe in?
Ooh, this is a great question, and I thank you for asking this question. Can you see I've seen a lot of political so yes and no. So with UniQ, because we have a very, very consistent balance of sound as you move off axis, so traditionally when you move off axis, the balance of sound changes, which is why you toe in, and one person gets the best performance from that loudspeaker. With UniQ, because we've got that big spread of sound, we always say start with flat into the room. Always start with flat into the room. Place the speakers maybe towards the edges of the listening area, and you're going to cover everybody in that listening area. Now, when toe-in becomes a possibility, would be if you've got some asymmetry in the room. So, for example, here in the KML, we do have some asymmetry. And one of our blades is closer to the left wall. The blade closer to the right wall is a bit further away. And we've got like an open doorway to the theater. So I have chosen to toe in the speakers slightly in order to ameliorate that. And it's got nothing to do with the speaker performance. It's to do with how it's working with the symmetry in the room. But I've never had to go beyond 10 degrees of toe-in. And the great thing is toe-in is free. So you can experiment with it. It's not like you're changing cables. It's not like you're changing sources. It's give it a change, give it a bit of a toe-in, sit back down, have a listen, or preferably have someone else do the moving for you. Have a listen. If it works, fantastic. If not, you put it back where it was. So give it a try. You can always reset it.
Yep.
Yeah,
I would say
whenever
that
I go to.
Oh, sorry,
Adam. Go ahead.
Well, I would say for most people who've owned another speaker brand that maybe doesn't have as wide dispersion, a lot of times it's almost kind of the person breaking in, getting used to the fact that KEF just doesn't need as much toe in. And so when you get them, a lot of times I will see customers towing them in a fair amount. And, again, just as Ben kind of said, do what's comfortable for you, do what sounds good for you. And I'll say experimentation is free. And so, you'll find what clicks in the room. You'll know right away.
For sure. Someone was asking if they were closer to a wall. Like one was, they said within like 6 inches of the wall. I need to see if I can find that comment. But they were saying if one was way closer to a wall, is it better to just go ahead and tow it in as well?
Yeah, it's going to depend on the room. I mean, I was just in the Audio Advice showroom in Raleigh today, where they have the blades, and they're actually almost recessed back into an alcove that's probably about 24 inches deep or so. The blades were maybe 6 or 8 inches off the wall, and it's perfectly straight, maybe 1 or 2 degrees of toe in at most. And they were on a pair of Class A mono blocks with a Class A preamp with a Hi-Fi Rose streamer, and the system was absolutely fantastic. Were those sidewalls creating some kind of energy? Yeah, I'm sure they were. But the direct sound, the experience we were getting was just so good. It'd be very hard pressed to pull them out more and try to modify them where they fit really well kind of in that alcove. And so just it's going to depend on every room.
Yeah. And for those of you, somebody was asking about what toe-in is. So if you don't know what toe-in is, it's instead of taking your speakers straight, you're slightly angling them in. And so on a traditional, on a tweeter and speaker, the idea is that it sharpens up your center image. And so the benefit is you don't get as wide of a sound stage, but you get a more focal center image. So it's a little bit tighter. But yeah, I mean, obviously with the KEF design, there's a little bit different considerations there, just given the dispersion angle, because you guys have, what is it considered, about 180 degree dispersion?
Up to around 140, 160 degrees, so plus minus 70 to 80, depending on the model.
Gotcha. But okay, so some other funky questions. I like throwing you guys curveballs. I don't want you coming here thinking everything's going to be easy.
Plenty of questions, man. I can't believe.
I know there's a bunch. So somebody said, when is it recommended to use port plugs? Because do you guys include port plugs with your speakers?
We do. Again, port plugs are free to experiment with, and to the point where we actually do have on the port plugs, you can actually take out the center of the plug, so you can partially block. Typically, I've tended to use them more often than not when going to within 9 inches or so of the wall behind. But in some cases, I haven't had to. It does depend on the room, the material, the makeup. But typically, I tend to use them within 9 inches of the rear wall. Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, I always get questions on that. I've got front ported speakers. Sorry, they're not KEF. They may be one day. We'll see. But my speakers are front ported. So, I've played with their distance from the wall, and it does make a difference, but it's not nearly, rear ported speakers. You could just change the entire sound of a speaker by moving it closer or further away. And, while we were on the topic of just kind of experimenting with different methods, try it. That's the end of the day. Just definitely give it a shot and see what works best for you.
I'll mention a bit internally. I remember maybe about a year ago or so now, Ben, where we were discussing a more detailed manual, so to speak, in terms of like setting up KEF speakers. And the funny thing is we were kind of going through it and took, idea here. And at the end of the day, the bottom sentence was always just try it in your room and see what works. And that's kind of become our guide. It's like, well, give it a try, see what happens. I mean, it's to say as a manufacturer, the exact way it needs to be set up in every room. That's just not possible. You just can't. You can never know what something's going to do. And so even when I set up theaters with customers the first time, one of the things I do that's very different from a lot of other people is I start with almost all channels at full range. Let's just see what the room can do. Let's just see what it sounds like. Let's start from somewhere of just extreme output, and let's go from there. Let's see what we can pull back to maybe make it click into the room if we need to at all. And for anybody who's at home and says, I wish I could experiment more, or I wish I could find the right spot. Just play with it. Just see what's there. Like Ben said, it's free, and that's you know, a lot of people I think will also say they can't hear the difference, or they won't know when it's right. You'll know when it's right. You'll all of a sudden feel it, where you'll sit back in your seat and like, whoa, the bass is like totally different now. You know, or the imaging, it's like, wow, now I can hear the piano over there and the guitar over there. Like, you'll feel it when it's right. And it just takes a little bit of experimenting. And those of us who've been doing it for 20 plus years, we still have to kind of go in and mess with it a little bit to find what's right. There is no, oh, it's 6 inches off this wall, 12 inches off this wall, it's going to be perfect. Doesn't work that way.
There's been situations in some rooms where I found that going very, very close to the wall and close coupling with that front wall has been the best thing for that speaker in that room. But and as you get more experienced in that, it becomes quicker to kind of notice things and know kind of how to dial them out. But yeah, I'm a big believer in the master method of loudspeaker setup, where, you know, you're using your ears, because find me a room that is acoustically symmetrical and I will find you a rainbow colored unicorn. Right. They're so rare. So like visual kind of symmetry is not always the best way of looking at it. So, you know, I've even had blades before within like 6 inches of the front wall. And that's just happened to be where the bass just sounded the tightest in that room. Yeah, I may have lost soundstage depth, but I was getting really, really nice tight bass. So yeah, it's get a can or a glass of what you enjoy and hunker down for the evening. That's enjoy yourself.
And we have the advantage because we can tell our families it's work related.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, actually, fun fact, during peak quarantine, I got obsessed with the master placement. And so for those of you who don't know, master placement requires listening to Ballad. Is it Ballad of a Runaway Horse? Is that the name of the most commonly used song? Oh yeah, Ben knows. Yeah, because you listen so basically it starts out with this thumping bass, and it goes along all the frequencies. So you're looking for the right balance of volume and tightness. And so you're moving your speaker like an inch at a time. So I got furniture pads to put below mine because my spikes were tearing my floor to pieces. And this was in a prior room, but you just basically move the speaker inch by inch until it's perfect. And still to this day, if I hear that song, it's like Pavlov's dog. I'm like, I feel like I should be moving a speaker right now. But yeah, look up master placement if you guys want to get into it. It's definitely worth trying. But it's brutal. But speaking of bass, while we got you here, we got Reggie Walker. He was asking, when running the R11s, are you capable of doing full range? Do you suggest running the speakers as large or small? And I think he's talking about, of course, using it with a receiver in a theater use, large or small. I love this conversation.
Oh, as do I. As it ruffles a lot of feathers, just because if I go back just kind of quickly in history in terms of multi-channel in the home, a lot of what multi-channel evolved from was manufacturers now having a source content to play that had more than 2 channels. And so manufacturers had to quickly develop speakers that could go other places, i.e. center channels, sides, rears, subwoofers, eventually Atmos channels, in ceilings, things like that. And so throughout kind of the history of multi-channel, the effects channels or the rear channels, Atmos channels, sides, whatever you want to call them, a lot of times were, subpar, several steps or notches down in quality and performance, output capabilities. And so the standard became crossing over your effects channels, and then ultimately even crossing over your LCRs to allow subwoofers to play more of those frequencies. Where I have a kind of an issue with that is one, performance, especially at KEF in all of our products, with the right amplifier and the right speaker, we can play any speaker at full range without problems, with no apologies. And actually, a lot of our competitors can too. A lot of our competitor speakers have become quite good where they can play full range too with a good amplifier. There's no need to rob them of the bottom 80 hertz. And then on top of that, the more I play with it, like even here in my theater at the Music Lounge in New Jersey, we discover that we hear a lot of people saying, well, low frequencies are omnidirectional. Yeah, they are. but they still have quite a bit of directional information, especially considering the human voice can dip well below 80 easily. And when you cross over all of your speakers or any of your speakers, you are pulling away a lot of that directionality that really creates that 3D effect in an Atmos theater, surround channel, stuff like that. So, it's why I always encourage listening to all of your speakers, with the exception of Atmos channels, at full range, just to kind of see what you get. Because, if you're doing a theater that has, R11s as left and right, I would absolutely try running those full range at first. They're fully capable of it, as long as your room's not 60 by 50. As long as it's appropriately sized room, they have an appropriate amplifier, appropriate processor or receiver. Yeah, absolutely try running them full range, because you are going to get better steering. When an explosion's off to the left, you're going to get more of that explosion energy off to the left. Yes, my subwoofer is going to carry that LFE track and be, wherever my subwoofers are. But I always tell people, again, test it. Testing is free. Listen to them at full range. Don't crank them all up to 11. Don't blow your speakers, but listen to what's best in the room. In my theater here, all of my bed channels are running full range. In the KEF Music Lounge, we found out that the fronts and the rears were better full range. The sides were better crossed over at 40. Like, you would never know that without just experimenting and testing it out. We get out the SPL meter, we look at it, we all kind of turn our heads and go, yeah, that sounded better, right? Okay, that sounded better. All right, crossover at 40. And that's what everyone at home should be doing. But don't be afraid of full range. Full range is not a bad word in multi-channel.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, it's finding that sweet spot between the room size, the amplification, and the speakers, and trying to get that crossover point as low as you can get it for each channel. Yeah, Adam talks about steering. I mean, one of the things that we do a lot here in the KML is use the Never Enough scene from The Greatest Showman, and there's an orchestral drum being played in that. And a drum doesn't energize the entire room immediately. It doesn't stay, it washes through the room. And by having the crossovers set as we have set them, the way that bass wave just washes through and propagates, you feel it coming through. And that is the experience that we're looking for. You're feeling that experience. It's the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when people say that bass is omnidirectional, it's less directional. Like, if you have one subwoofer in a room, you can probably tell which side that subwoofer is coming from. If you don't have one in the front corner, one in the back corner, that becomes a little bit different. But yeah, you can definitely tell which way it's coming from. But Adam, you had an interesting thing you were talking about. I think this relates to it. You were talking about amplification. So Alan says, what type of amplification, how much power do you recommend for the R3 metas in a large room?
Unlimited power.
1 million.
1.21 gigawatts. I mean, honestly, it's the more the better is certainly probably true. One really neat thing with UniQ is that if you have a KEF speaker and you have an amplifier that doesn't have enough power, one thing that's kind of unique is you'll notice that the UniQ driver still seems to sound almost close to perfect, but you'll notice the bass is just missing. And that's where, that's how you kind of pair the amplifier with a KEF speaker. Is you've got to find something that's getting you the output you want and what you need. If you're taking a pair of LS50s and setting them up in your studio because you want to use them for mastering, well, you don't need 900 watts per channel. I mean, yes, you want some headroom, but you don't necessarily need that. And so you can find the amplifier is going to fit for your scenario the way you want to use them. And so again, it's kind of tough to have a one size fits all or a, hey, here's a recommended power. Always go for as much power as you can. That's always going to benefit you, because you're going to get much more fullness in the mid range. You're going to absolutely get a lot more punch and visceral energy in the low frequency side of things. And your high frequencies will just become more transparent with better, more readily available power. do we have a preferred amplifier brand? Honestly, not really. I mean, I use Hagel here. We've got Parasound in our office. We've used Macintosh. We've used Class A. I heard today at Audio Device. I was blown away how good it sounds. So really, it's more on the consumer of what brands they like, what they like the sound quality of. A lot of amplifiers. Some people will say amplifiers don't have a sound signature. Yes, they do. They're still using parts. It's still built and developed by humans. There's still going to be a thumbprint of some kind on those amplifiers. And so just find what works for you and works for your setup.
Yeah,
Power the better.
Sure. That's a good answer. Yep. Yeah. The more headroom you can have, the more you're probably going to be happy. But, and better dynamics come at lower volumes. But like I said,
and like I'll say one more quick thing is like I'm a big dampening guy, so I like the ability of an amplifier to start the sound and immediately stop the sound. So I'm a big Hagel fan because they're kind of known for their dampening factor. So that gives my drivers a lot of punch, quick stop, and that's something I prefer. Someone may prefer maybe a more warmer sound or a more tube type sound. So it's gonna always kind of matter based on what the person's looking to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, one of the greatest quotes that came from our founder, Raymond Cook, was when KEF returns music to its rightful habituation, your ears and mind, we aim to do so in the most natural way we can, without drama, without exaggeration, without artifice. So we're just trying to step out the way. That's all we're trying to do. We're trying to step out the way of the sound, and you can utilize other parts of the chain in order to kind of fine tune that for yourself. So yeah, we are very, very amplifier agnostic, shall we say.
Yeah. So got an interesting question. I've had it up here for a second from Jeremy. So he's trying to do a 742 Dolby Atmos system, but the receivers don't always come with all channels amped. Is it better to go with a higher channel amp or add amps to the lower end models? Price matters. Even though this is not necessarily a speaker question.
In terms of comments that Ben and I made earlier about achieving a more even keel system, kind of start to finish, it gets very expensive very quick on the receiver side of things to get to where you have 13 channels amplified, or to where they're even amplified at the same quality. A lot of manufacturers will say, "Oh, it's 125 watts per channel." Yeah, with only 2 channels driven. Once you drive all 13, it drops to 20 watts. And so a lot of times, especially when someone's trying to build a theater from start to finish all at once, so you've got to buy the projector, the screen, the subs, the speak, you're investing everything all at once. A lot of times in a lesser expensive receiver that has pre-outs with a better amplifier to go along with it, or an outboard amplifier, is a really great combination. Because what you can do then is you can normally assign the amp channels in the receiver to your Atmos channels or to your sides and rear channels. And then you can use that external amplifier that has a lot more power, a lot more headroom to drive your LCRs. That's still where a very, very large majority of sound is coming from, is from your LCRs. So now you can use an amplifier for that, and you just basically up the quality of that receiver tenfold by using a better quality amplifier. Plus, you can actually find lesser expensive amplifiers that just have the pre-outs for the LCR. And so that would be my kind of go-to for somebody who's building a theater all at once. Because, yeah, I'm sorry, even if you're in the industry, this stuff gets expensive real fast. There is no way around it. You need it's a lot of gear to make. It's a lot of boxes. I know. I go in my attic and I'm like, oh my God. And so if you can get a lesser expensive receiver that can do what you need it to do, has all the channel count you want, has the subwoofer output you want, then use an external amplifier, that's a killer way to go.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I feel the exact same way. Yeah, when it comes down to, I typically buy 7-channel receivers and just add on power amps for my front channels, just because I'm kind of a 2-channel guy as well. So I like to have a little bit better dynamics.
Now you get the twofold of having a better amplifier for your left and right to use for music. So it's just a great way to go. I actually even have I have 2 5-channel amps for my sides, rears, and Atmos, and center channel, and then I have a separate 2-channel amp that's considerably more powerful for my left and right, because this is where I listen to music as well.
Yeah, or you can get a powered speaker or an active speaker. Active, sorry, you guys don't go under the term powered. My bad. Which
you've been for the training, Nick, you should. You should know.
I've
this,
been through
Nick.
the
You've been
training.
through training.
I've got a KEF brand on the back of my leg, from the training. So, we're part of the club. So, I mean, tell everybody what the advantage of having that built in is.
So having all the stuff built into the active products, it gives us a huge amount of control. When we did the original LS50 wireless, it was very much a case of we had the LS50, the passive, and it was a very aggressively priced product at the time, very aggressively priced. And in the UK, because I was retailing KEF at the time in the UK, and I don't know if it's the same in the US, but if you were spending 1,000 X currency on the speakers, you were probably going to spend about the same on the amplifier. It seemed like a rule of thumb for a lot of people. But the LS50 was so much more capable. So I started selling the LS50 with much more kind of like higher end or more higher mid-fi amplifiers, and they really started to shine. So the LS50 wireless originally was very much a case of, this is what we think it should sound like. So we had, we are designing the amplification ourselves. We write the DSP code ourselves. And it all allows us to kind of stitch it all together in a way that a passive system will never be able to do. I mean, what we can do in the crossover in the DSP realm is light years beyond what you can do in a physical analog crossover. And we're even doing things like fixing the phase issues that happens when you go through any crossover. So we basically sent a signal through the crossover, measured what comes out, and basically implied the inverse. So not only do we have all sound coming from a single point with UniQ, it's hitting the UniQ at the correct time, and just tightens everything up in terms of the soundstage. Then we started looking a lot more at how can we turn this into a product where it could be your first or your last hi-fi system. It's one of my favorite quotes on that. And if you've got somebody who's deep into their hi-fi, I mean, our active stuff, they will accept DSD, high res, so on and so forth. But if you're just getting into high performance audio and you've only ever used Bluetooth, for example, that's fine. You can keep using Bluetooth, and we're going to give you the best amp performance from a Bluetooth speaker that you're going to get. But then we say, look, you can keep doing Bluetooth, or move to Tidal Connect, move to Spotify Connect, move to Qobuz, Deezer, if you're one of the 26 people that uses Deezer in the US. So it's the active products. It's like a two-way thing. There is a heightened sense of performance for the outlay, but there is also the usability and the ease of use. It's very much like the proverbial swan, where it doesn't look like it's working very hard on the surface, but underneath, those feet are going 100 miles a minute. So,
well, no, that's a really great explanation.
All into one word is optimization. That's the one word I should have used at the beginning, and now we're all a lot older for my
It's easy. It sounds good. We like it. There we go. Simple enough. Awesome. Well, guys, I just realized we're getting here close to the end of the hour, so people are going to start to want to hear winners. That time flies whenever you're talking. But so like we said, we got two giveaways. One's for the best question, and then one's for for the big door prize. And so for best question, I think that John Hansen had the best question about toe-in. I love that question. It really sparked an awesome discussion. So
because it's really the start of listening to your system too. Toe-in is that first placement is the first step you'll take in terms of really diving into your system, seeing what fits the room, seeing what connects to the room, and what feels best for you. And it's something you should experiment with any speaker, whether it's a KEF, whatever. Finding where it clicks with the room is always just a fantastic experiment.
Yeah, for sure. And so for our final big giveaway, which we've got the R3 metas, which we've been discussing quite at length here.
And
Let me see. We get a drum roll. All right, and we have Andrew Blumenthal, and he's out of Middletown, Connecticut. So Andrew, feel free to reach out to us, and you got yourself a new pair of speakers, man. So
I'm even
awesome.
jealous.
Well, guys, KEF, thank you guys so much. And everybody else, if you didn't win, we've actually got another giveaway coming next month, which, let me see if I can pull that up here. Hey, ground controls got me. We've got a Blue Sound Node X that we're giving away. We're going to have our friends from Blue Sound here to discuss. So again, guys, we really appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of their day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate it, man. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you for everyone who's popped in. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Awesome. See ya.
Cheers.